Do you owe somebody else an apology after last night?
Who would that be?
Carmelo Anthony. Are you familiar? He played in your city for a while.
Okay. Absolutely not. I do not owe Carmelo Anthony an apology, and people need to stop with this foolishness. I tell the truth as I see it. Carmelo Anthony thought he was still a superstar when he was no longer. His ego took hits. And by the way, every step of the way I mentioned, even in the clip that Kendrick Perkins retweeted yesterday when he said, I owed him an apology, Kellerman owes him an apology. I always thought of Carmelo as a clutch player. I know he's a future Hall of Famer. He's one of the great scorers of all time, right? I get that. But he was no longer a superstar. And then when his egos took that hit, I also gave him credit for trying to fit in, trying to do the right thing. In Houston, in Oklahoma City, it's not that the will wasn't there and his heart wasn't in the right place. It's that he wasn't that good anymore. And that not as good as he used to be. And that was coupled with the fact that the league was changing from right under his feet, right? So his overall offensive game was always devastating. But when that talent isn't pitched as high because of father time anymore, what specific skill do you do to help a team, right? Is he an amazing catch and shoot three-point shooter? No. Not amazing. He can do it, but he's not like, oh my God, Carmelo Anthony is amazing at that. Was he a defender? Was he a versatile defender or even a defender at all? No, not as much. If you needed a bucket in ISO, could he get you a bucket? Yes, he could. And so I mentioned he's like a 15-minute player off of someone's bench. Now, those who were arguing that he was still better than that, he is proving them right and me wrong. So that is true. He's proving what I said about him based on what I saw wrong. And now that he's giving new evidence, I will adjust my opinion. Carmelo Anthony is still a valuable contributor to a good NBA team. He is not just a guy who could be in a rotation. He can start, maybe even on a championship team. Not a great start, he's not a star anymore, but the fact that at his age, he could still be a starter on a contending team says a lot about his greatness. And so what I will say is Carmelo proved my prediction about him wrong. I certainly don't owe him an apology because when he was playing at one level, I said it and that was the truth. And now he's playing at a different level. I'll say that again, and that's the truth.
Max, what are you talking about? Everyone owes him an apology. The entire NBA owes him an apology. Let me say this. He would not be in Portland right now if they weren't decimated by injuries early on. So Portland got a gift because they took a risk and they believed the individual when he said that, hey, look, I'm at a point now where I understand changing my game. I understand that, but what you're doing right now is the same thing that got Carmelo in trouble. You're allowing your ego to dictate everything. Don't let your ego just say, you know what? I'll allow for not an apology. Just say something. You don't have to say, I'm sorry, Carmelo. I'm sorry. No. But what you do need to say is, look, Carmelo continued to evolve. No different than the NBA evolved. He continued to evolve. And every portion of evolution isn't always smooth. Transitioning from a starter and a superstar into a role player can be difficult. But if you give somebody an opportunity and they tell you that they're willing to do it, you have to believe them. And because the Portland Trailblazers believed him, mainly because they needed to believe him, it put them in a position to make the postseason. They would not be in the postseason right now if they did not sign Carmelo. And for that reason, everyone owes him an apology. Do you know how many teams right now, the Lakers included, would love for that type of production to be on their team? If the Lakers would have signed him, no disrespect to Deion Waiters or my brother J.R. Smith, they would be in a much better position to go and win a championship against the Clippers or the Milwaukee Bucks. So a lot of teams missed out on Carmelo because they were being stubborn and they didn't want to take him on his word.
Now, look, but I disagree with that. Like, I agree with the fact that he evolved, and Carmelo Anthony deserves enormous credit. And he has proved the doubters, and I was certainly one of them. It's not just that I doubted. I was pretty certain he was washed. Wrong. He proved me wrong. But an apology is something else.
There's the apology.
That's if we were seeing one thing and saying another about him. Richard, you're saying the adjustment period isn't always smooth. I agree with that. This happens in every sport. When a star has to adjust to being a different kind of player, a pitcher in baseball loses his fastball, he has to become a finesse pitcher. There's usually a little dip before he gets to kind of like a second prime or the next level of his career, right? So I get that, but there was a dip. Like, we saw him not be effective anymore to the point that two different contending Western Conference teams both said, and they said the same thing. Look, his intentions are good. He's working hard. He's trying to fit in. There's just no room for him here, right? Because he wasn't good enough. Now he's adjusted his game, and given the right situation, he showed, no, in fact, he is good enough. But this is new now. He wasn't good enough, and now he is. So he has made the adjustments, and he's proven the doubters like me wrong. That's different than saying we owe him an apology.
No.
Like we were going off of something we didn't really see.
And Mac, this is the thing. You say that he wasn't good enough, and I know for a fact that is not true. Do you want to know how it's true? Because I had an NBA GM specifically tell me, he was like, look, we like Carmelo, but ultimately, if you look at the end of your bench, you don't want a Hall of Famer in the 9th spot and this pressure to play him. So even if Carmelo was doing everything right, coming off the bench, saying all the right things, working hard, coaches and teams didn't want that pressure. That is not Carmelo's fault. That's why he was out the league.
Yeah.
And this individual GM said, look, if it's not going to work in Oklahoma City and it's not going to work in Houston, why is it going to work here? So people were shooting him down because they didn't want the pressure of having a great player in their 8th, 9th spot, even though he got to a point where he was willing to do it.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming, sports, and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.